feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college rule.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast with Dom and Chris. We're just a couple of comics talking sports. Who are we talking about today?
We are talking one of the best power hitters of the steroid era today.
Oh, I like that era. You know, brought baseball excitement back into baseball.
Yeah, pretty much saved it from that 94 strike. And, well, when you look at the labor situation right now, baseball, you're going to be falling behind ladies curling soon.
Well, we're talking about Sammy Sosa, which this is where I thought this episode really started at a perfect point right now, is what you brought up, 94 strike. Everybody's attendance is the all-time low for baseball.
Yeah.
And we see this guy kind of bring this kind of excitement back.
He really comes out of nowhere. Like, everybody knew about Mark McGwire from his days in Oakland, where Jose Canseco was doing butt stuff to him with needles.
Whoa, that's exactly correct.
Exactly. Everyone knew about him. He had 49 homers in his rookie season. You're not going to forget this large ginger man hitting balls 500-600 feet.
Bash Bros meant something else back then.
Those forearms, dreamy. Anyway, Sammy Sosa kind of came out of nowhere to challenge Big Mac and actually exceeded him by the time his career ended as far as power hitting numbers.
Yeah.
So you want to start off with Sammy Sosa here?
Yeah.
Let's put that DeLorean at 88. Yeah. Let's go back.
Let's go back.
November 12th, 1968. Sammy Sosa is born near San Pedro de Macorís, Dominican Republic. He was born in a smaller village, but San Pedro de Macorís was the closest town.
Well, yeah, it was like the closest city, but he was born in one of the outskirt villages.
And he's of Haitian descent. I will bring this up later when we talk about his current appearance. When, like I said on the map, I actually wrote on my paper, which will come into play later.
Awesome.
His grandma, not grandmama, nicknamed him Mikey.
Yeah, which I thought was weird. But.
Yeah, nowhere in his name, Samuel Peralta Sosa. Can't really get a Mike out of that. But Mikey was the name of one of her favorite telenovela people, which... yeah, why not?
Well, I thought it was interesting that literally his family still calls him Mikey, which nobody else does. It has no relevance. They're just like, no. Remember when Grandma used to do that?
It's like the Life commercials. It's Mikey. He likes it.
Yep.
Anyway, growing up playing baseball, and quite good actually. If you aren't familiar, Dominican Republic, not Puerto Rico, which means you can be signed when you're 16 years old as an international free agent. And Sosa is indeed signed as a 16-year-old in 1985 on July 30th. Signs with the Texas Rangers. And, we start seeing kind of a recurring theme in his minor league and his pro career. Sammy's a bit of a free swinger.
I was going to say, for everything that he does right, he definitely does not have plate discipline.
And
so, that's what every single scout that looks at him sees this. So
Sammy, on his back of his baseball card and every available website I found, like a baseball reference, lists him as 6 foot 165. And when he's 16 years old and you see him early in his career for that stint with the Rangers, he looks like he weighs about 136 pounds like Muggsy Bogues.
Yep.
Very rail thin. Granted, he's 16 years old. He hasn't put on weight. I can,
From the Dominican Republic, so he might not be eating as much as they would want. Someone that exudes that much energy.
He talked as a kid playing with balls made out of rolled up socks and freaking milk carton gloves. But, hey, gets him to the majors, right? Anyway, in 86, he hits at the lowest A ball, 275 with 11 homers and 28 RBIs. 87, 279, 11 homers and 59 RBIs. But this is his walk to strikeout ratio. 21 to 123.
Yeah.
For basically every single walk he gets, he's striking out 6 times, and his on-base percentages aren't even reaching 300. So, he's still 18, 19 years old, but even Bonilla was far leaps and bounds ahead of Sosa, as we discussed in the minors.
I was going to say, if you're striking out this much, you better have a really high slugging percentage or something like that, because he is really a power hitter that just has absolutely no control.
Yeah, his eye at the plate is. I mean, when he gets a hold of one, it goes a long ways. But the problem is he's not getting a hold of a hell of a lot. In '88, he hits 229, 9 homers, 51 RBIs, 35 to 106. So he's improving,
But not, yeah. All right, throw him some breaking balls.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I imagine is happening.
Serrano. You know what he needed to do, Chris? He needed to sacrifice a chicken before the game and not have Pepper bring in goddamn KFC.
Maybe we'll get him a bucket of chicken and he won't notice.
But I did want to bring up, and this is early in his career, in his minor league career, and even early in his career where he's with the Rangers and the Chicago White Sox. He's a fast guy on the base paths. He stole 42 bases in that single-A season in '88. In '89, though, he starts the season with Double-A Tulsa and then goes to Triple-A Oklahoma City after hitting 297, 7 homers, 31 RBIs, and a improved 15 to 52 walk to strikeout ratio.
But you're right. I think the thing that gets overshadowed by his hitting is that he is a great base runner.
He's and even in his career when he started putting on weight, we don't know how, but he's putting on weight. He was a smart base runner.
Yep.
Like he had the baseball IQ for it. He had just kind of not weighed 165 pounds anymore. But Texas at this time in the late 80s, they're finally starting to put together some real talent on the team. You've got guys like Juan Gonzalez and Pudge Rodriguez in the minor leagues, kind of building those playoff trip teams you see in the later 90s. And after only 10 games at AAA, he makes his major league debut at 20 years old.
I thought that was interesting that he really did not play much AAA ball whatsoever. But they were ready just to bring him up. And if you're ready to be brought up, I mean, screw it. He starts playing left field.
And if you look at a Sammy Sosa Texas Rangers card, let me say one thing. That man had the best Deion Sanders Jerry curl of that era.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, let your soul glow.
Still into when he played for like the White Sox, too. It still was rocking. But yeah, it was quite the look that he had.
It doesn't look like him now, does it, Chris?
I wonder, and this is what I want to say about Major League, is I wonder about Major League 2 when that guy shows up with like the earring, I forget what the actor
Willie
is.
Mays Hayes?
Willie Mays Hayes, yeah, geez. And he shows up like that. I wonder if they were looking at, a Bonds, Sosa, from this era of these guys kind of looking ridiculous, but still looking like, yeah, I'm fly.
Dude, I don't care. That's still fly to me.
That's what I mean. I still think, I was like, yeah, that's the shit.
To have the Cleones to just be like, I look good. Good for you.
Yep.
Like with Deion, like, man, I'd asked Detroit for so much money they would have put me on layaway.
It's awesome.
But makes his major league debut June 16th. Only 25 games, though, that year with Texas. He hit 238 with 1 home run. You know who it was off of?
I do. Old Roger Clemens.
Someone else locked out of the Hall of Fame.
Another one who's never going to get in the Hall of Fame for various things that they didn't do. Let me just say that.
Yeah, they may or may not have done. We're not going to go too far down.
But that's kind of cool, though. Like if steroids never happened, and these were 2 guys who are already in the Hall of Fame, we'd be like, "Whoa, isn't that cool that Sammy Sosa's first home run was off of Roger Clemens?" You'd be like, "That is cool."
Yeah, right.
Now we're just like steroids, and then that's that.
Only 3 RBIs, and I didn't want to bring this up. 20 strikeouts, 0 walks.
Yep.
That's not inspiring a lot of hope there, Dennis Reynolds. But during that year, he was traded July 29th, 1989, with Wilson Alvarez, who became a very good pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, where he went. For Harold Baines, who's actually in the Hall. Can you believe that there's a freaking Hall of Fame with Harold Baines and not
Sammy Sosa or Roger Clemens?
Yeah, give me a freaking break. And Fred Manrique, and finishes the season out with the Pale Hose, 273, 3 homers, 10 RBIs. And he walked 11 times.
So, yeah, you could see he was improving because I think it was kind of a surprising move, but that's kind of what you see with baseball is like youth gets moved around. So White Sox pick him up and play him the whole next year.
Yeah, 1990 he played every day. Unfortunately for him, not good. Just not a good season for him.
Yeah.
And, he's only 21 years old. I mean, he's not going to be 22 until November. But in 532 at bats, he hits only 283 or 233. The bad part is his on base percentage is 283.
Yeah.
Which is like, sometimes pitchers have higher on base percentages. Sometimes they occasionally walk, but 15 homers, 70 RBIs, 32 stolen bases though for Slammin' Sammy. Which
well, that was his bread and butter forever. He was a speedy power hitter,
and he had 26 doubles and 10 triples. So I mean, you could see a little bit of the power coming into like.
Yeah.
To me, I think if he allegedly whatever he did later, if he had stayed the course like this, I mean, he'd had a pretty successful baseball career. If you think about it,
I agree.
But
different kind of baseball player.
Different kind, yes.
Yeah.
But 33 walks, 150 Ks, and by 91 he's losing playing time. The White Sox are just not having.
I was going to say, and his batting average is dropping. His play is dropping with the White Sox, so they move him on.
Yeah, after a season where he only hits 203 with a 240 on base average.
Yeah, that's horrible.
He's traded right at the end of spring training, March 30th, 1992. Veteran George, do you know who George Bell is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the Dave Steeb episode we talked about. Yeah, so a former MVPer, he got traded to the Cubs in 1991 when they were shuffling pieces there in Toronto. The White Sox trade for Bell, and Sosa goes with pitcher Ken Patterson, and pretty much resurrects his career. This is the move that puts him on the trajectory of the Sammy Sosa we kind of know.
Well, this is when he becomes, I would say, of age, because I mean, he really started his professional career pretty young, but he becomes this the age that you see guys really take off. So he's 22, 23.
Yeah.
The Cubs really back him. So that's something that was said in the clubhouse where the Cubs were like, no, you're our guy. We think you're great. Go out and just be great.
And we're bad all the time, so no one's going to notice.
Exactly. The pressure was more off of him. So that's when you see him start put up legit numbers, in 93.
Yeah, breakout season for him in 93.
He bats 261, but he has 33 home runs, 93 RBIs, and he steals
36. Yeah, he's a 30-30 guy.
Yeah, it's his first 30-30 season, and you look at the Cubs for all of their horrible moves. This was one that was a great one because they saw a guy with potential, and they were like, well, we have room for guys to grow.
Yeah, it's are we the best team?
No.
Probably not even in our own hometown. But no, are we the best team? No, but guys will get actual playing time. They're not fearing in Texas that they're going to get traded like they are on the south side of Chicago. But yeah, I wanted to bring up though, you mentioned he had 33 homers that season.
Yep.
He only had 37 career homers leading into that year.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Well, this is where it turns because like you were saying, he wasn't a power hitter leading up to this. He was more of just a different baseball player, but whatever happened at the Cubs, man, I mean, I don't know.
It was all those Budweisers with Harry Carey who gave him the Slammin' Sammy Sosa nickname.
What a great nickname.
If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? Goddamn.
Shaking.
Hey! All right, so 94 is a strike-shortened year. First year he hits over 300, actually, in Major League Baseball. Probably even in the minors, too. 25 dingers, 12 doubles, 70 RBIs, and then 884 OPS, which is he's a high 800s plus type of player during the prime of his career. And you kind of get a glimpse of what's coming because 95, he makes the All-Star team for the first time, which is pretty cool for him.
But this is what we were talking about earlier with baseball this is when the backlash with baseball is how do we, in 94, cancel a season or cancel the World Series?
Yeah.
That's what everybody was saying for years.
World Wars didn't do that.
Exactly. So we go into 95 and attendance is down. And then we'll get into what happens with him. But
you need fresh new stars, and Sammy Sosa is now a fresh new star.
Is this when he signs his contract? I can't remember if it was 95.
I think it's after this.
96, yeah, something like that.
So he has 36 homers, 119 RBIs, 34 stolen bases, and wins a Silver Slugger.
Yep.
Granted, Cubs don't make the playoffs, but hey, you have a star.
They're starting to build, and they have a star to build around. And I think this in 96 is when they give him a $10 million year for 4 years.
And he rewards them with 40 dingers and over 100 runs driven in.
Well, that's what they were saying was this is what the Cubs gave him was peace of mind to be like, we're not moving you on. We're not putting pressure on you. Here's a bunch of money. Just go out there and
do Sammy Sosa things.
Yes. And he really did. And he was that's something else that I feel like he might not get enough credit for is he was very like uplifting in the clubhouse.
He had a very jovial personality, and it made you want to root for the guy.
I was going to say, coming into the Cubs, I bet there was like this feeling of like, we're losers. We lose every season. You know what I mean? There's very much like, oh shit, you're getting dumped onto the Cubs. And he came in like, guys, we're here playing baseball every day. What do we do? Like he had this energy that was like contagious throughout the team.
Losing doesn't hurt your soul as much if you do it with a smile.
There you go.
God dang it.
Well, the Cubs were just losers forever. So now we see them kind of becoming viable team.
Yeah, 97, played in all 162 games, first time in his career. Scored 90 runs, 36 homers, 119 RBIs.
Yeah.
You'll overlook those 174 league-leading strikeouts because if you're hitting 36 bombs a year, I'll take it.
I feel like that was the first time that they overlooked that. You know what I mean? Like if all your other stats are what we just said, 34 home runs, all of that kind of shit, like, all right, you're leading strikeouts, that's all right.
Reggie Jackson struck out all the time, but nobody cared.
Nope.
He almost killed the Queen, remember? God dang it. Gratuitous naked gun. Sorry. Anyway, 98, though, is a magical year for Sammy and a magical year for baseball because he's one of two guys that basically brings interest back to the sport.
Well, it was dying, and then steroids came up, and they said, guys, we can bring the excitement back.
I mean, this is the era where you had Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine in those Nike Chicks Dig the Long Ball commercials.
I mean, they did.
What was it, that Simpsons quote with Mark McGuire? Do you want to know all the dark, disturbing secrets of Major League Baseball spying on you, or do you want to watch me hit some dingers? Dingers! Dingers!
It's so true, though.
I know. This is exactly what freaking happened in 1998. So
Sammy has a slow start.
He does.
Let me say this, because this is the year of the home run race. It starts off with Ken Griffey Jr.
And Mark McGwire.
Mm-hmm. Sosa's not even in I don't even think he's in the top 5 for like the first, I'll say until June. We'll get to June.
Well, through April and May, he's not. And because he plays in a colder weather city too, like Chicago, not a lot of dingers to be had at that time of year. But June is the big month for him. June is the big month. You want to talk about that?
June is such a ridiculous month. It's probably the greatest month that a single baseball player has ever played.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
So during the month of June, and this is where he kind of starts surpassing Griffey. I think finished with 58 homers that year, which is like nothing to sneeze at.
No, but this is right when McGwire starts to kind of make a lead, and Griffey, you can see, starts to, because I'm pretty sure they were even up at like 40 in the 40s, and then you see this break off, and this is when Sosa becomes that second guy and is up with Mark, because literally you would say he's probably like 15 off the pace of them in June, and then he has 20 home runs in the month of June.
Well, not only that, he has 47 RBIs, but a lot of people forget the Cubs are in the thick of a wild card race and a postseason trip in 1998. They had just played, I think April that year was the Kerrywood 20 strikeout game. So, I mean, they're not a bad team anymore.
Sometimes we forget this is a team sport, and they're actually playing for a playoff place, not like McGwire, who's like, no, we're the worst team, and I'm just going to bomb shots.
But this year, I did want to bring up, he led the league in runs, 134, RBIs, 158, and total bases with 416, which is the most since Stan Musial in 1948.
I saw that.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, I want to say this. He was not just a power hitter in this. He was a great baseball player, which you kind of have to harp on because McGwire was just kind of a power hitter.
Yeah, McGwire was like the show you went to see.
Yeah.
It was just like, we get to watch Mark McGwire today. Fuck all St. Louis, you know? Like, I don't care what the Cardinals do. But, like, Cubs are keeping pace, and Sosa, he's actually tying McGwire once they both pass Maris at 62. Unfortunately, with a few games left to go when they're tied at 66 homers, McGwire hits 4 more.
Well, I thought this was interesting. He actually led the race for an hour.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. So they both were tied at 62. He hit his 63rd. People said that McGwire heard that. He went, what?
Yeah.
And then bombed one. And then they were tied at 66. But I think it was in the last 2 games he hit 4.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But for Sosa to finish with 66, nothing to sneeze at. And it's funny because McGwire hit his 62 against the Cubs.
Yeah.
And him and Sosa had that kind of embrace after, like, you know, the big party or whatever going on there. But, 66 homers, 20 doubles, 1.024 OPS, Silver Slugger, and he won the MVP over McGwire strictly because they had to play a play-in game that year to make the wild card. They tied with the Giants, who finished. This is probably the last season of baseball I actually enjoyed, when the Padres went to the World Series. But the Cubs and Giants play at Wrigley Field, and the Cubs win.
Yeah.
And they're doing it all for Harry Carey, who had died before the season.
that's pretty awesome.
If the moon were made of barbecue spire ribs, would you eat it?
Well, I mean, it's the first time they, have like this viable team, and it's this thing that happens. I heard somebody say this, that it's the most exciting regular season that we'll ever see in baseball.
Oh, it was amazing.
So you'll never see a regular season like this, like worth a home run race, and like playoff baseball is one thing, like, but for this to be exciting in summer, it's ridiculous.
It brought fans back, and much as we discussed in our 3-part series, baseball, when they have something good going where there's questions surrounding it, you know, like cocaine or amphetamines or, you know, performance-enhancing drugs or gambling, they kind of like to sweep it under the rug because everybody's back and happy.
Yeah, check out drugs in baseball, because baseball really does, MLB really does, to like to live in shit rather than work a shovel. But
That's a
I feel
perfect
like
saying.
This was the instance that everybody was just like, I remember my dad saying it, just like, men aren't made like that. When he was like looking at McGwire, and then more with like Bonds. But it's one of those things where you're just like, yeah, that's not natural. But in the moment of it, we're all just like, you don't care.
Because you're like, oh my God, I'm not mad anymore about the strike.
Exactly.
Like,
it was such an interesting time in baseball. It was great.
Robin
Perfect.
Williams checking for steroids. You got a Mardi Gras head and Raisinets, you're out.
You're out.
99 was a good season for Sosa. Not so much the Cubs, but he hit 63 home runs.
I thought it was ridiculous that he hits over 60 home runs 3 times and never wins
a single one.
Babe Ruth, whatever, the top home run. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
because he literally beats Maris's record 3 times and was never the top home run leader.
Which is, it's amazing though that he was able to do this. 141 RBIs. Of course, he led the league in strikeouts for a 3rd straight season, but you don't care.
You don't care at this point.
You don't care because you have an all-star, a Silver Slugger, and you led the league in total bases again. That's just fantastic. He does lead the league, though, the following year in home runs with a measly 50.
I thought that was absolutely hilarious. So this is when McGwire drops off.
Yeah.
And this is right before Bonds takes off. So Bonds is getting these little injuries that come with steroid use because he's overexerting himself. He figures it out for this next season.
Yeah.
And the top. So I just want to say this. We go from 70 home runs to the top, 66 to 50, to then the next year we have Bonds bomb 73.
Yeah, and
so
I did want to bring up in 2000, though,
Yes.
he did hit 320.
Yes, no, he had a
And
great.
that should have been an MVP season for him, in my
Yes.
opinion, after looking over who he was competing with and the roster he had around him. But you're right, yeah. But yeah, 2001, go into that.
Well, 2001, he has another 60. He has 64.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, is like he is the only player to have 3 plus, sorry, he was the first player to have 3 plus 60 home run seasons, which we went how long without them?
You had only 2 people do it for the first 100 some odd years of baseball.
And now he had, that's the thing. And he still kept his base running. What you were saying was like, he obviously wasn't as fast, but his baseball intelligence was that high. So he could keep his base running up to a higher standard, but Bonds had 73 coming
and he
in
wins
that
the
year.
MVP. But when you look at Sosa stats, I did want to bring this up. This was another year he should have been an MVP or at least a candidate.
Yeah.
146 runs, which led the league, 160 RBIs, 34 doubles, a career-high 116 walks, including a league-leading 37, which means he was intentionally walked more than Bonds that year when he hit 73. He hits 328 and had a career-high OPS of 1.174.
Well, I think, and this, if you're saying like why Sammy Sosa should get an MVP for this season, you see the walk record amongst all his other ones, which was always the thing that people would talk shit on. But you were just like, oh no, he had every stat. And
people were just as afraid to pitch to him as they were to Bonds.
Yep.
That season.
That's
crazy. Yeah. But yep, 2002, NL leader in runs.
Yeah.
Only 49 homers, Chris. Like, what's he doing?
I know. It's such a ridiculous stat that we look at now. We're just like, only 49. Jeez.
And then All-Star and Silver Slugger as well. 2003, though, the Cubs are finally good again. They're finally not in the basement.
Viable.
They honestly, they probably should have won the World Series that year.
Yeah.
But this is kind of a tough season for Sammy, and it kind of marks the beginning of the end, despite the fact that this is probably the best Cubs team he ever played on. May, he was on the disabled list for an injured toenail, and then in June, he has quite a peculiar situation happen to him on June 3rd, 2003.
This is when you realize you're an old man. I don't care what age you are. I don't care if you're 16 or if you're 82. This moment is when you start looking around. You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm an old man. What happens?
So,
is that the Padres? Let me just point this out. There's something fishy going on here.
So they're playing in a game, and he breaks his bat. And on June 3rd, 2003, he takes a hack. The bat breaks. And what do they find inside the bat, Chris?
Oh, we're talking about...
Yeah, we can go into... this one happens before, yeah.
All right. So his bat was corked.
Yeah.
He says that they were playing around with a cork bat in practice, and it got mixed in with his bats.
Which I will say, this isn't like Albert Bell. This isn't like Albert Bell where you have Jason Grimsley, freaking John McClaning it and replacing it with a Paul Sorrento bat because all Albert's bats were supposedly corked. In batting practice, what a lot of these power hitters like to do is use cork bats because they get the bat speed and they bring all the fans out.
Yeah.
Like, it's simply for show. They don't use these bats in the games. Somehow this bat got mixed in. They checked all of Sosa's bats that were at the game. None of them were corked.
They also checked all of
Hall
his
of Fame bats, too.
None of them were corked.
So that one was the honest mistake. That was the sad one. Let's get into the elderly thing that happened at Jack Murphy Stadium.
I thought we were talking about that. Was so funny.
Yeah,
but you're right. The cork bat was interesting because you'll never even hear of another instance of him having that, and I feel like this is one of those
games down to 7 because you got to suspend the guy for using a cork bat, but it's
this
not
is
like
one
it was
of those.
intentional.
Yeah.
But so they're playing the Padres, and Sammy's in the locker room.
And he decides to just take like an extra big sneeze. I don't know. And he breaks his back.
Yeah, he injures his back while sneezing. This isn't like Jeff Kent lying about falling off his car washing it when he was doing wheelies on a Harley. This is, what? How old are you?
Well, the reporter who was there said he took a gigantic sneeze. When an old dad takes a gigantic sneeze, and that's exactly what he did. And then he literally limped away holding his back, and they were like, "Oh, whoa!" And it wasn't like a small muscle pull, it was like a serious back injury.
That's got to be the worst way to injure yourself: sneezing or banging. Either way, it's not a good look.
Oh man, you almost fuck yourself into an early grave. We've all been there. Don't worry.
I remember the Dust Bowl. All right, but like I had brought up before, though, even though Sammy's getting suspended on the DL for being an elderly person, the Cubs win the division.
Yeah,
they win the division for the first time, if memory serves me correct, because I don't have it in front of me, in 14 years since 1989, which is pretty darn impressive. They have a great pitching staff. Wood's finally healthy. They got San Diego's own Mark Pryor on the mound, and Dusty Baker fucking up his young pitching staff like Dusty Baker always does. And they go to the playoffs with Sosa, and they win a great playoff series. I don't know if you ever remember this. They play the Braves and they beat them in 5.
Oh, yeah.
It was Pryor and Wood that year were just freaking fantastic. I should say, coming off a season where he had 40 home runs and 99 runs scored. Doesn't do so well in the NLDS, but then again, it's Atlanta and their pitching staff. I think this is Maddox's last year with them. Glavin's still there. I don't know if Smoltz is in the bullpen or not, but they're a strong team.
Yeah, they're still a strong pitching team.
Yeah, and then they actually have the fortune, because we talked about in the Bonilla episode and in the Ken episode, the Marlins are in the playoffs, which means fuck the Giants. Am I right? The Giants had they had over 100 wins that year. The Giants in 2003, how they did not roll into a second straight World Series is beyond me. But then again, when you play the Marlins in the playoffs,
anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Yeah, they win the game where I think Conine hoses JT Snow at the plate. It's that famous scene of Ivan Rodriguez, possibly someone else who took PEDs. I don't know. Texas was pretty cool back then.
Totally cool.
Holding the ball or whatever. But anyway, they play the Marlins. They draw the Marlins instead of the Giants, which is fantastic for them because the Marlins are the wild card.
Yep.
And the Cubs make pretty good work of them in the first 4 games, I would say. They go up 3-1.
Yeah.
And Sosa's a big part of that in this series, as far as he hits 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and hits 308. And when you're up 3-1, you have one more back in Florida to play as Game 5, because the last 2 are at Wrigley. Florida, unfortunately, has Josh Beckett, a young Josh Beckett, as their ace of a very young and talented pitching staff. And Beckett shuts him down in Game 5. So you go to Game 6 in Chicago. Sammy singles in a run at the beginning of the game. Everyone at Wrigley's going crazy with 5 outs to go. And then Louis Castillo bloops one into left field, and hello, darkness, my old friend, for the rest of Game 6.
So they lose Game 6.
Yes. I won't get into it, Cubs fans. I'm not. I won't do it.
Cubs.
I won't do it. Game 7, they're actually winning that game. Did you know Kerry Wood hit a home run to give them the lead, to take the lead back from Florida? And everyone's like, "This is our year!" And then, boom.
Well, play the Marlins, man. They have those weird teams that you're like, this team isn't that good. They have some all right pitching, but they just win these series.
Yeah, and that was as close as Sammy got to playing in a World Series, which is I mean, the fact that you blew the 3-1 lead is bad enough.
Yep.
The fact you lost the last 2 at home in that particular fashion is,
it's brutal.
No bueno.
And it's very much what the Cubs were doing for a century.
Yeah. A century of rebuilding. That was a good T-shirt I once saw.
Oh, I know.
2004, makes the All-Star team, his last season in Chicago.
Yep.
35 homers, 80 RBIs, but at this point he is basically 36 years old, and the Cubs are trying to rebuild with younger and, let's just say people who don't throw their backs out by sneezing players.
Well, I mean, he's almost been playing for 20 years.
Yeah, no.
So
I mean,
it's you know what I mean? It's, yeah.
It comes to an amicable split. January 28th, 2005, he is traded to the Baltimore Orioles for utility man Jerry Hairston, infielder Mike Fontenot, and Dave Carruthers. And he has a couple decent seasons in Baltimore, I think.
Well, I thought it was interesting his time with the Cubs. I think he has the most.
Texas, I meant, yeah.
He has the most home runs in a 10-year stint. So, like we were saying, he didn't have a ton of home runs early on, and then he went through this period where he was just hitting 30 to 66 home runs.
Well, I did want to bring this up. Everyone knows Ernie Banks, famous shortstop, Hall of Famer, member of the 500 home run club, I should add. He passed Ernie Banks for most home runs in franchise history. So, I mean, you can't take that away from him, no matter what you say. But, of course, anyway, with the Orioles, kind of peters out, actually. He's playing with Rafi Palmeiro and that fun old guy lineup.
I wonder if they were comparing steroids. They're like, wait, you're taking what? I'm not taking that. I'm taking the Mexican.
When you look at all these guys that played in Texas with Jose freaking Canseco.
Ridiculous.
You can kind of connect the dots.
Yep. Like, you know that guy? Of course I know that guy.
He put something in my butt.
Yeah.
Let's say it
Needles,
like
please.
Needles, everyone. Only 14 homers, 45 RBIs, hits 221. He sits out the whole 2006 season.
Yep.
But that year, he's kind of like being an ambassador for the Dominican Republic and baseball in general, because you're thinking he's retired, and this is kind of the same period. And we'll probably get into this after we talk about his career of the hearings on Capitol Hill, right? So sits out 2006. On January 30th, 2007, he signs a minor league deal and goes back home to Texas.
Yeah, I saw that the Nationals offered him that deal and he denied it, and the Rangers offered it, and he was just like, yeah, all right. I wonder if it was like the feeling of like, I kind of wouldn't mind retiring as a Ranger. Cause
it's a home run friendly ballpark,
Yep.
too. I mean, ballpark at Arlington. It doesn't even exist anymore. They tore it down after 25 years. Jeez. That season, though, were kind of some milestones for him. On April 26th, he hit a home run in his 45th Major League ballpark.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it means you've been playing a long time, too. On June 20th, 2007, Jason Marquis of the Cubs, who was wearing Sosa's 21,
Yep.
he gets his 600th home run, which only at that juncture, I mean, granted, more have done it since, the fifth guy to do it.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, if you ask me.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Finishes the season with 21 homers and 92 RBIs. Tried to play in the World Baseball Classic in 2008, but ended retiring mid-season 2009.
Yep.
Which his stats, if you just looked at him on paper, excluding all of the rumors and everything that swirled with him, 273 batting average, 2,408 hits, 609 homers, and 1,667 RBIs. Hall of Fame numbers, but when you want to talk about the Capitol Hill stuff, which we'll go into, not good enough.
Well, it's sad to think that baseball isn't just letting these guys in on their numbers because they let them play. So it's, and that's how we feel about this. We feel like, there should be a Rose, a Bonds, a Clemens, a Sosa in there, but that's...
The man saved baseball.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
He co-saved baseball.
It was in such decline, and then him and McGuire came along, and
there would be, if 1998 didn't happen, there would be more interest in men's doubles figure skating like Blades of Glory than there would be in Major League Baseball right now.
Well, it's sad to think that he doesn't get any respect. So let's get into him because he denied always.
So the Capitol Hill thing was kind of strange because you had idiots like Palmeiro, and I'm calling him an idiot because he's sitting there in front of Congress going, I have never taken steroids, period. And then you have guys like McGuire who are kind of like, God, I'm kind of fucked. And he plays I'm not here to talk about the past.
Yeah.
He plays that card. And Sosa, well, suddenly a language barrier comes up for him, and he's not really understanding the questions, whether that's true or not, but he's really honestly speaking through his attorney. And his attorney issued the following statement when he's in front of Congress talking about PEDs in baseball. To be clear, I have never taken illegal performance-enhancing drugs. I have never injected myself or had anyone inject me with anything. I have not broken the laws of the United States or the Dominican Republic. I have been tested as recently as 2004 and been clean. Unfortunately for him, in 2009, there was a New York Times article, and this is the one David Ortiz was included in. In 2003, baseball, they weren't going to punish anybody who tested positive, but they were going to put a PED program in place. They randomly drug tested players, and the ones that pissed hot, Sosa was on that list. And no one was suspended for it, but when that article came out, it started to name some names, and Sosa was definitely one of those names.
Well, that's the thing is we look back at this era, and there's no way that he put 50 pounds of muscle on in like the off season. That's what we look at all of these guys.
Look at a Sammy Sosa when he arrives with the Cubs in 1992 card, and look at a Sammy Sosa card from 1998.
Yeah.
And it's not like someone like Miguel Cabrera who starts out skinny and then just eats himself to like 300 pounds, like just a natural aging type of thing. This was pretty pronounced and pretty darn quick.
Well, and the quote that I remember from our Drugs and Baseball that you said Bond said was, you think these guys are messing with steroids? Wait till they see what I can do. So like it was one of those things where it was so obvious that the other players could see it. That was the thing for me. It was just like, oh, look how much bigger Sammy is.
Well, and that's the thing is you can take a decent player like Sosa and make him an MVP. Barry Bonds won 3 MVPs when he was not juicing.
Yep.
Roger Clemens, I think, won 3 or 4 Cy Youngs not juicing. You juice those guys up, they turn into mutants and they play well into their mid-40s.
Well, that's the thing that people are wondering, like, what if Griffey, with his swing, put a little bit extra meat on his bones?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, shit like that.
Well, you know what it would have helped him more than anything? Not even power.
Bat speed.
Nope.
Oh.
It would have helped him recover from injuries faster.
Oh, my God,
because
yes.
that guy's career was just destroyed by it.
That's pretty ridiculous to think about that. Because
if he had taken steroids, you wouldn't have seen the career arc that he had, and especially with the injuries just destroying him, because he only knew how to play the game one way.
Oh, yeah.
Like a boss. But
Like
anyway,
boss.
we're back onto Sosa. Let's talk personal here. Let's talk his personal life. We've gone over his career. Not talking about the past. He married Sonia Rodriguez, who was a Dominican dancer on TV.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. They've been married. They have 6 kids. Seems to be going well for him. What does he look like now compared to his rookie card?
I believe in like 2010, 11, it was in this time, he showed up to like music awards.
Yeah.
Like 3 shades lighter than he normally was, because I mean he normally was a black guy. I'm not even gonna like he normally was a dark Dominican.
Well, I said before he's of
Haitian.
Haitian descent.
Yep.
Most people in Haiti, unless you're like a French person from the early 18th century, you're gonna be of a darker complexion. And people in Dominican are a little bit of the lighter complexion due to the Spanish influence.
Well, and then we see his complexion over the next 5-6 years just get lighter and lighter and lighter. And it gets to the point where I was saying this to you before the podcast that Stephen A. Smith was like, dude, have you seen Sammy Sosa to Skip Bayless? And he was like, no. He's like, dude, he's whiter than you are. And like Skip had to say the N-word and like get out of it.
Yes,
you
of
know
course
what
he
I'm
did.
saying.
But he doing Skip Bayless things.
Well, and this is something that I found so interesting because I was really looking for Sammy Sosa commenting on this, and I finally found him commenting on it, and he was so nonchalant. He said, yeah, I put bleaching cream on my skin every single night.
Yeah, it's supposedly like a skin routine for him or something.
Literally, he was just like, yeah, what do you like? Yeah, I'm trying to get lighter. And if you look at him, he doesn't even look lighter. He looks like he's like sick.
Yeah, if you put a striped shirt on him, he would legit look like a mime right now.
Yes.
I mean,
oh my God.
Like, you remember the Wayans brothers and White Chicks? That's Sammy Sosa right now. It's like, I love Sammy Sosa. Great ball player. But he would haunt my nightmares with the way that he looks now. It's like, it doesn't look correct.
No, you're right. He looks like he's wearing he looks like he's wearing makeup, like a bunch of foundation. It's so weird. And
he's like a French clown from a shitty college-produced art indie film.
It's insane. He looks insane. I want to say this. We'll get away from talking so much shit on his appearance because goddamn it.
But it's
scary.
weird. Like, we don't mean any disrespect. You're not the same man who hit those home runs.
Yes. He's did not get in the Hall of Fame. We just had
This is his last year eligible.
I saw that he's still, because he was just like, yeah, I understand the Hall of Fame isn't letting guys from this era in. He said that he's bummed that Chicago hasn't invited him back to have a parade. Like we saw St. Louis actually did that with McGuire.
That stinks, dude.
And
how can you do him like that, Chicago? That's BS.
That's the only thing that because I saw like him talking about Hall of Fame. He was just like, I was quietly waiting for the Hall of Fame. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm still waiting for Chicago. And it's like, damn, why are you like... He was such a great baseball player for such a
beloved character
for such a horrible Cubs team. And that was something else that people were saying was like he wasn't just a great player; he was a player that was beloved for a decade in Chicago.
Barry Bonds saved the Giants in San Francisco. They will trot him out and suck his dick at every opportunity. Get your shit together, Cubs! Come on, God, Sammy Sosa, know him and love him, yeah.